This is Don't Get Me Started. This is a conversation about advertising. And here is your host, freelance creative director and creative circus department head, Dan Balser.
Yes, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Oh my God, it's been so long that I hope I remember how to ride this bike. I think we're recording this now in the middle of February. I think the last time I recorded one of these conversations was November. Now it's kind of spread out because it's a pandemic. We're not face to face, and listeners, I hope that this is the beginning of a new round of some great conversations. I'm actually really excited to talk to Federico today. Before we start, Federico, I want to just say, thank you to Frank Cartagena for hooking us up. Frank was a guest on the show. I don't even know how many years ago, and he sent me a note, and I really appreciate him connecting the two of us. So, as you know, listeners, we're talking today to Federico Diaz. He's ACD at the community. He started off as a copywriting intern at Gray Group in Buenos Aires. Then he spent 3.5 years at Don. I've never heard of Don. We'll talk about that in a second. Also in Buenos Aires. And then a couple of years as a senior copywriter at Ogilvy and Mather, also in Buenos Aires. And we have that in common. I worked at Ogilvy, New York in my first job. And for the last 6 years, Federico has been at the community, starting in Miami and now based in New York, but living in Miami. I think that's correct. In his words from his website, which is federicodiaz.me, this is what he wrote. I think this is charming and kind of captures everything. He said, what can I tell you that's relevant? I'm from Argentina, but I've been working in the U.S. since 2015, first in Miami and now in New York. I'm 35. I'm colorblind, so I'm a copywriter working as an ACD now. I like really smart advertising and really dumb advertising. And then my comments are continuing here. So the portfolio, Federico, I spent the morning looking at your website, and it's a ride, the right kind of ride, from the silliness of eating with your hands, which is just idiotic, to the bone-chilling, really brought a tear to my eye commemoration of the terrorist attack, which was just incredibly moving execution of an experience. And then there's the sublime absurdity of the thing that I think a lot of listeners might know you for is the Oreo Doomsday Vault. There's just great variety in the book. And hats off to you, and thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me. And welcome to your own microphone down there in Miami.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for having me. It's my first podcast, so I hope I say something kind of interesting or funny or something.
Yeah, we're just going for kind of interesting. That's all. That's the bar we set on this, so that's good. So I want to start off talking about you had a caption. I think it was for this restaurant TV campaign with people eating with their hands, and it was the pleasure you get from just putting your phone on do not disturb and just eating with your hands, right? And you said something about how you like it just to be just silly or kind of dumb. And I want to talk a little bit about this because it's really interesting that I saw that on your website today, because literally last night as I'm going to bed, I was thinking about telling my intro to Teams classes, you guys, I want you to present something where I just shake my head and call you're an idiot. That's the stupidest thing I've seen. So is that something you go for? Is that something that you have always been comfortable presenting? When I say stupid, I mean just accessible and humorous, right? So is that something that you've always done?
Not always, but I think the last few years is something that I have a goal, and probably my partner and the people who work with me are okay, enough with the dumb ideas. But I'm kind of obsessed with it now. I think it's part because at some point advertising became about saving the world every single brief. And I was like, wait, but can we just also do some dumb stuff that makes people laugh? Because at the end of the day, advertising, nobody wants to watch advertising. So if I see something fun or interesting or that makes me laugh on TV, I'm like, oh, okay, that brand is cool and I like it. And also, I don't know, this might also be a part of me coming to the US. When I first moved, a lot of everything was very strategic, and the boxes were getting very small, and every project had to tick all the right boxes. And it felt I don't know, it became kind of very smart and very strategic advertising. And sometimes the fun part of at least what I think my job is coming up with dumb, crazy ideas. So I kind of also try to do that, even if then at the end we'll end up on something, more rational or whatever. At least the first rounds, I'm going to say dumb shit.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a difference between strategic and tactical. What I think you're talking about is they wanted work that was tactical, that did a certain thing, right? Rather than just saying, let's say this, but say it however you want, right? Which is strategic. So it's because when you look at your book, there's nothing in it that's not strategic. There's nothing in there that's just creative to be goofy. I mean, there's that diner scene of the guy's his prepaid card's better than yours, and it's like it's just goofy. And some of these little moments where the director captured these moments of people kind of half off camera dancing is just so fun to watch. But I know what you're saying. Where like do you think that comes from clients thinking they know what they want, or do you think it comes from a lack of strategic insight, or what looking back at those moments when you felt like you were limited, why do you think you were limited? And better question, were you really limited, or did it just feel like that?
I think, it might be a combination of probably not being mature enough to realize what the right answer is, and not me being, doing whatever I want. But there is another thing that I learned when I moved here is I would get mad when clients would do the same campaign every year or wouldn't deviate much. And then someone told me, look, if this client screws up, they might lose, 1,000 jobs because it's, it's right. Corona or it's Verizon. So it's not it's not just go Fede, go do something fun. And, there's more responsibility. And I guess sometimes you can't blame them for wanting to do something, more conservative, if you want to use the word.
Yeah, I think for every bad commercial you see on TV, there were 10 better ideas presented.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why. I never blame. If I don't like a spot, I don't blame the creative because I know the process. Like we all know that probably you got killed in other moments.
So, how much of the stuff on your website is director cuts? Are those the versions that aired?
I think they're all the versions that aired.
Oh, cool. Good. So talk to me about your advertising education. Like how did your career start in Buenos Aires? What does it look like learning the craft, and how did you get your beginning? Tell me about your school experience.
So I actually went to college in Rosario, which is my hometown, which is a little like 4 hours away from Buenos Aires.
Okay.
And I studied advertising in college, but it was I don't know if there are better ones here that not 4-year college, but it was kind of like mixed marketing and design, and no one really worked at an agency because it's kind of a smaller town. But then after that, I moved to Buenos Aires and I did kind of like a portfolio school.
Mm-hmm.
All the teachers were creatives in real good advertising agencies. And that kind of blew my mind. I went actually to do a 3-month thing, like summer thing. And it kind of blew my mind, so I stayed and did the whole year. And in the middle of that, I got that internship at Gray through that school.
Cool.
And so I kind of started while I was doing school. I started at Gray, and I was like, okay, this is real advertising, not the thing I was doing in college for no one.
Right. What do you think is the most important thing you learned at the portfolio school?
There was a lot of I remember one teacher told me, like we would go the first classes with one idea, like he would give us an exercise and we would come up with one idea. He was like, if I give my boss one idea a week, he would fire me.
Right away, yeah.
Right away. So I think in college, I would do that a lot. It's like, okay, we have this project. Okay, this is the idea and we go for it. We didn't have that creative director sort of thing with the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
That really helped me. It's like, okay, you told them everything you think, and the teacher will guide you, towards what's interesting or what, the thing that you didn't realize that was the interesting part.
Of course, sure. All right. So you said in your own bio, you said that you're colorblind, so you leaned towards copywriting, and obviously, English is not your first language. Talk to me about the adjustments to working on American advertising, not just the language, but the cultural adjustment. Has there been one? Has it been seamless for you? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think from what I've talked to American friends, I kind of had one advantage, that is my mom is an English teacher in Argentina. So English was also always kind of part of my life or my house. And we would watch a lot of, Friends, Seinfeld, even when in Argentina, it wasn't that popular. We were probably the only family watching Seinfeld in '98.
So is that on down there in English with Spanish subtitles?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they will have both, but we will watch in English with subtitles. So it was kind of, I would get the Seinfeld, like the catch lines. So
Right.
I kind of had American culture in my brain before coming, which I think is also a thing for, American exports culture. So most of the countries know American culture. Probably if I went somewhere else, I wouldn't know so much about their culture, because of movies and TV shows and memes and Twitter and everything.
So developing your craft, and this is a question I think I'm going to start asking everybody this question. What obstacles did you have to overcome just as a creative? Just what were some of the earlier lessons that you learned either as a student or as a junior that you had to kind of figure out, besides don't just present one idea?
Yeah. I guess one thing that I learned is I'm not the most, I'm a very chill person. I'm not, the guy that's on your face trying to make things happen. Or I don't know, if you reject my ideas, I might not fight, or I wouldn't at the point, because okay, I'm gonna come up with more. So I guess I didn't have that drive, sort of, and I've talked about it with bosses or partners, and I guess that's one of the things that probably I learned when I worked alone for a few years after my partner went back to Argentina. That I kind of, yes, I have the ideas, but I have to take that extra step of kind of talking to everyone to make it happen, or how do I make this happen? Talk to my boss, convincing him, or finding the best way to present that idea. I think that might be one of the learnings that I did later in my career, probably.
That's really interesting, because I had the opposite problem. My problem was that I got really angry when people didn't buy what I thought was clearly the best idea, and I would go back and I would kick my chair, kick the desk, or whatever, because they were such idiots, they couldn't understand. I had to learn the fact that, like, the best idea doesn't always sell, right? Or what you think is the best idea in school, the most creative idea, or the team's favorite idea, doesn't always sell. There's a whole bunch of other stakeholders that you have to kind of work through. So that's interesting. So you're saying you were a little bit of a pushover, a little bit too easy, like you weren't like standing up for your own ideas?
I think I would go back home or go back to my little office, and internally I would be angry, but I probably wouldn't do it in person. I think it's still to this day, if you meet me in regular life, I'm a very quiet, shy, chill person.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess as you grow, you have to realize that you need that sort of push, I guess.
Yeah, I think also as you grow, you realize that your well is basically bottomless, and you're hired to come up with another idea, not that idea.
Yeah, that's that's one of the things that is insane, that you have to come up with ideas every single day of your life for I don't know how many years.
Yeah. So how do you approach your craft? Do you approach it from because I always think of the way that I think of my job as an advertising creative, right? I think of it very much like improv. So the prompt for the scene is the brief, and then I'll just kind of riff. Like I'll just take on roles, or I'll take on language plays or something. And to me, it's just about how can I play that strategy line differently. And some people like to play with language. Some people like to think in visuals. And I know that most of your great work, you have some great work that's print, but your portfolio is heavily weighted towards television, video. So when you get a brief, how do you start?
I think what I do more now is kind of start by research. I research, the brand, like what people are saying, all of that stuff, that we've been hearing a lot about culture and all of that. But also, I don't know what interesting things are happening, around the product or around the user, which is kind of obvious. But I guess before I didn't do it, I would just start coming up with ideas. And now I try to let those inform the ideas.
Oh, that's cool.
And then, I think one thing that I try to do, which is becoming harder, I guess, is to just go with my notepad. I just start thinking. It's harder also when you have the computer and people are, chatting with you, or you have to check emails. it's hard to just have 2 hours to just think and not have any distractions. And then I would do a lot of like map kind of thing. I would put the brand in the middle and start talking, like writing the things that are related to it, and then the things that are related to those, and then try to connect dots. That was my initial. I think now I do it subconsciously.
Yeah, you trained yourself to think that way without actually do. Yeah, you find yourself going down different roads quickly and seeing what's there. Go down the road, see if there's some construction happening down there. No, go turn back, go this way. Yeah, you train yourself to be able to do that without having to do it physically. That's really interesting. It's really cool. But you make a great point about distractions. I remember when I was a student. I remember at the end of the quarter, we had our copy we had to write copy for all my ads. And I would go downtown to the Atlanta Braves game. I'd buy a $4 ticket. I would sit way up high so the roof was over me with my pad. And I would just write copy. And then if I heard the crack of the bat, I would kind of look up, see what was happening, go back to my copy, all by myself in the stadium, in the seat, just to be away from any distractions. So it's whatever it takes, right? Whatever it takes.
I'm sure you were the weird guy. It's like, who's that guy that comes to games and just sits on his pad?
Oh yeah, there were definitely weirder people at those games. that was before the Braves were good. It was easy to sit wherever you want. So this isn't in my questions. I just wrote this down because I was thinking about Frank for a second. So tell me about the community and what your role is now, what your job is now. Talk to me about how you've progressed from a copywriter to an ACD. Has it changed? Do you feel like you have more responsibility? Tell me about the kind of clients that you're working on and the work that the community is doing.
Yeah, when I first moved to Miami, I was just a senior copywriter, and I was basically just doing a creative job. And the last, I guess, 2 years, I've been an ACD, and I mean now, kind of like on the hopefully later part of my ACD. So a lot of my job now is trying to find the time to come up with ideas, because a lot of my time is either presenting to the client or getting the presentation ready for the client, or talking to strategy and accounts, or kind of hearing the more junior teams and helping them, giving feedback. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
How much are you working with younger teams, junior teams?
We in the New York office, we have one junior team. Not junior, it's a mid-level. So it depends on the project, but more and more, we're trying to be more involved and, being kind of a group and not just all of us presenting ideas, as equals.
That's cool. All right. So I have 2 questions that are not related. Flip a coin. Give me number 1 or number 2. I don't know which one to ask you. 1 or 2?
2.
2. Okay. So 2 is a little bit off of what we're talking about. What do you like doing the most? And what's your favorite part of the process, and what's your favorite type of work to do? What's your favorite part of the job? What do you really enjoy?
I think by far is what we were talking about, coming up with ideas. The pure, even I think it's a fault of mine, which I get someone to like my idea, and then it's like, okay, now go do it. It's like, I just like coming up with them, which is obviously I have to do the second part. But yeah, by far my favorite part is coming up with mostly stupid ideas now.
Right. Are you scared that that part of the job is going to start shrinking the more senior you get? Do you have that fear? I always had that fear.
For sure. Yeah, I have it.
Yeah. So do you do anything outside of work to keep yourself motivated or stimulated?
No, not so much. But last year and the last few years, I tried to write either sketches or short stories or something. I did online the Second City sketch online courses, which are super fun because also every week you have to write a sketch.
Oh, it's cool.
So it kind of gives you, okay, you have this job, but also once a week you have to write a sketch. Or I would like, also just, if I have any idea, I would just write a short story, and I would sometimes not even rewrite it. I would just post it online somewhere, just because I like the feeling of, okay, I kind of thought this was funny, it's going, I don't have anyone else giving me feedback or testing or a client. I was like, okay, this is funny, this is going somewhere.
That's the reason I do this podcast, is that I don't have to, whatever it is, it is.
Yeah.
I don't have it. I don't have a. There's no hierarchy of approval for this thing. This is the thing that we're making. You and I are making this thing right now. Just whatever it is, it's going to be.
Like, well, whatever. It can be amazing. It can whatever, but it's my thing, and at least I enjoy doing it. Hopefully other people like it, but just enjoy doing it.
Exactly. I mean, I started this off for the first year was just like a kind of not a goof or a joke, but just for fun, just for the hell of it, just get my friends in front of a microphone and talk about our jobs. Sketch writing's cool because it makes you write in different voices, right? So you have to develop these characters. I think that's a great exercise.
Yeah, and it's also like doing the classes. I realized that a lot of it they have in common with our work.
Yeah.
How do they come up with ideas, or they have a list of 10, and then improv writing, which is kind of like brainstorming, and they have rules of threes, which we also apply in campaigns. So like a lot of it they have in common, but it's fun to see it from a even more like freer point of view. But they also have rules.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I remember watching that show Project Runway. I don't know why I can't say Project Runway, because it's the same thing. They have these deadlines and they have to come up with solutions, and they have basic expectations. I love watching the whole creative process, even architecture, even So You Think You Can Dance, that reality show where they had to learn dances in a week. I was so blown away because I could never do it, right? But like the interpretation of these feelings done physically to me still blows my mind. All right, so the first question was, some of the work on your website now just looks so weird because we're in a pandemic. So you have like scenes with people in bars and scenes people being social in big crowds. And like, talk to me about like just the adjustment to the pandemic as a professional, because I know what it's like for me as a teacher, and I'm pretty keyed into the student experience, but talk to me about what it looks like in early 2021 as a professional advertising person.
I think the first few months were tough for me because I had been alone, not alone, but with other partner for a few years. And last year, at the beginning of 2020, my current partner Juarez arrived at the agency. So we had like 1 month together, and then we were all locked in our houses.
God.
So I really missed, just being in the same room, bouncing off ideas, that thing that's kind of like what we like about being creative, just sitting in the room, talking, and every, half an hour, one of them is an idea. So being by myself was kind of hard, and we tried to, do Zooms or calls. It's kind of not the same. So that part was tough to adjust to, coming up with ideas by myself in my couch. And I was never really good at that, but I guess I started getting better at it.
So you guys aren't collaborating like virtually and working together, or how's it working?
Yeah, now we kind of do. Sometimes let's think for an hour each, like on their own, and then we call each other and we bounce off the ideas that we have. Or sometimes if one has an idea, we kind of chat through it on, we use Slack. It's not the best, but we kind of got used to it, and now I think it's working.
That's good. Yeah, it takes a while.
Yeah.
So I'm bouncing around, and there's no like progression for this conversation. But the Oreo Doomsday Vault was one of the few things that I actually, when it came out, I saw it on LinkedIn and actually looked at these videos, and it's just ridiculous. It's just the most ridiculous thing. So talk to me about, if the listeners don't know, they should go check it out. You can see it all on Federico's website. Again, to remind you, federicodiaz.me, M-E. I'll give you a second to go do that. Okay, we're back. You can pause, So talk to me about like how that came to life, and where did you shoot it? Was it fun? How'd you find a director? Take us through sort of the process of that whole project.
So yeah, it was one of those that it was the pandemic and everything was, against it, but we made it happen. So that's kind of also one of the lovely things about it. But I guess the beginning was, Oreo had this sort of open brief about, 2020 people are very stressed, and Oreo being the most playful cookie, their tagline is "Stay playful." They wanted to do something to kind of decompress and give people a little relief or some sort of, help from a cookie.
Yeah.
So this idea came. I've been a little obsessed with that global seed vault for a while. I kind of always wanted to do something. But then we learned about this asteroid coming, and we're like, okay, this is 2020. Everything was horrible. So if an asteroid is going to come and destroy Earth, we gotta do something to save Oreos at least.
Yeah. So people that don't know what the seed vault, so it's in Sweden, is that right?
It's in Norway. It's
in Norway.
archipelago in the north of Norway.
Right. So the project is to protect like the biodiversity of Earth and like basically save seeds for like all known plants or whatever in case something happens that can like basically repopulate the flora of Earth, right? That's the whole idea. Okay. So just to clarify for listeners that might have missed the boat on that one.
Yeah, I guess I've been too obsessed that I forget that other people don't know that.
I think everybody should know that, but like there may be two that don't. So yeah, so this is basically the idea is the same, but for Oreos, which is just insane.
Yeah, we were like, okay, you'll have wheat and whatever, but you won't have Oreos if the world is destroyed. That's ridiculous. So we set out to make this actual doomsday vault, and we wanted to do it exactly next to it. It's a little 5 miles down the road. But yeah, another good thing was that we had the original idea and we were trying to see how do we make it happen in the middle of the pandemic. Traveling to Norway was, kind of impossible. But the client and us and then the director that we found, which is one of the main reasons that we chose David Shafi, was, no, we got to go all in. If we do this, it can't be on a set on LA. We got to go to Norway. So they figure out a way they quarantined in Oslo for 2 weeks. We shot some stuff there. And then they actually went. We couldn't go because of quarantine and pandemic. But the producer and the director and a small team went to actual Svalbard, Norway, which is almost in the north. It's insane. Yeah. It's in the middle of nowhere.
To do a commercial for cookies.
Yes.
It's so funny. It's so awesome.
The other thing was, sometimes you have a deadline because, the client has bought something. We had a deadline that was an asteroid coming to Earth. It was very small chance that it would come, but it wasn't like we couldn't push the deadline. It had to be, I think we did it in 3 weeks or something, the whole thing. Oh, it was like, okay, we have to do it now.
It's so fun. It's so fun. Yeah, it's a bummer you couldn't go. I wonder if you would have gone if it weren't the pandemic. Would you have gotten to go? I guess so.
I think so, yeah. That was, yeah.
It still came out great. So we kind of covered this question about partnerships, but how do you like to work with a partner? Like what makes the ideal partnership? And when you think back about the best partnerships you've had, why were they good?
I think it's mostly liking the same type of advertising. I think I've switched a little in my career, but I think when I had good partnerships, it's okay. We like the same kind of stuff, and we laugh about the same kind of stuff, or we find the same kind of stuff interesting. And also, I think a lot of it is trust. I think with some partners, I already had it because one of them was my partner in ad school, and then with some you have to build it, but you have to have the freedom of. That if you say something completely stupid, the other person is not going to think that you're an idiot. They're going to know that you're saying it to spark something else or to build something from that. I think that's kind of the key, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly right. And when you say that you like the same things, it's like you have the same outlook, the same sense of humor, right? It's not necessarily that you're trying to mimic things. It's just that you have the same things make you tickle. Right? Yeah. It's the same sensibility. It's the same sort of way of looking at the world.
Yeah. And you can like different, you don't have to be best friends in the world, but at least some sort of, worldview or, okay, I find this sort of thing interesting. Because if not, you're going to clash a lot.
Yeah, it makes me think about like the problems we have with diversity in the industry, right? It's like if everybody thinks the same way, then you're going to end up with just the same boring old stuff. But like, it's not that. It's that you both can laugh at the same senses of humor. You can come from radically different places. And you can have radically different ways of expressing those things. It's just that you kind of like the same things make you laugh or the same things make you cry, I think maybe. So last two questions. This is we're going to round it out with these two favorites. What personal trait of you? What is it about Federico Diaz that has been your sort of most valuable traits thus far in the career?
I think I go back to the same thing a lot, but I think I just like coming up with ideas. So if you give me a project, unless it's a really bad one, I'm like, okay, yeah, great. This is amazing. I'm going to come up with a bunch of ideas for you. So I try to have that optimism about every project. It's like, okay, great. Yeah, we're going to make something like a really great idea of this.
So I wrote down optimism when you said it, but I was thinking it was enthusiasm. And then the next part of that, which I'm wondering if you have this, you seem like you do, but a lot of people suffer from a lack of confidence. I'm really surprised at how many creatives your level or higher suffer from this imposter syndrome where they just don't have the confidence. Do you always believe that if you get a brief, you're going to have something that's going to sell?
No, usually I have the fear that I'm never going to come up with an idea. But I think a big part of what happens is if your boss liked even if it didn't happen, if your boss liked the ideas that you liked, the next brief, you're confident that you're gonna, do the same. Right. If you didn't, or if the last project kind of worked in some way, that gives you confidence for the next. Or I've had moments where I thought, okay, I'm done. I'm never gonna have an idea again. But then, even if nothing happened, okay, this person that I respect liked it, so that gives me the confidence for the next one. And I think you kind of build off of those little moments, even if nothing happened, and just this person thought, okay, that's a great idea. Let's move on.
that makes sense. That makes the way you said it. That makes sense to me. I'll buy that. All right. So knowing what you know now, if you could go back in time to the day that you graduated from ad school in Buenos Aires, you're an intern at Gray, but you're just starting. What would you whisper in young Fed's ear?
That's tough. Let me think for a second.
Yeah, take your time. I'm sorry I didn't give you that one earlier.
No, it's okay. I know. I guess I should have thought about if I had a time travel machine, because I like time travel machines. Yeah, that's another one day I'll do something with a time travel machine.
Well, if you ever successfully invent time travel, then it already exists.
That's deep. Now I'm thinking about that one and not the question that you asked.
I don't think that's the first time I've said this on the podcast, but if anyone were ever to invent time travel, then clearly we already have it.
Yeah.
And that'll fuck with your head. So what would you tell young self?
I would say kind of keep the spirit that you have at that point, and never, like, this is going to be a long answer, but sometimes I like that I'm an ACD and I'm still coming up with the dumbest, craziest ideas in the group. And I think it's because I still think like that guy, even though I have other responsibilities, but at least I try. And then whatever, I'll come back. But I think that's I don't know if that's an advice that I would give myself, because I tried to do it, but I guess I would give it to other people. Like, never stop throwing impossible ideas. Even if you think they're not going to happen, just throw it. Nothing, you can't lose. And I guess I've done that maybe sometimes in my life, that I overthink things and I don't say it. Maybe that's the advice that I would give myself. I would tell myself, don't overthink it. Just throw the idea and let other people kind of build on it, or tell you if it's good or not, or don't just be your own partner and own creative director and everything in your head, because you work with other people. So just let it go.
That's awesome. I had this metaphor in my mind when you were talking about, I always, for some reason, think of my psychology as a house. And like when you open doors, you have rooms in the house where you explore or whatever. And all of our houses have our childhood bedroom in it, right? In our psyche. And as you age, I think it's important to make sure that the nightlight to guide you to that room is always on, because you always have that child in you. It's just that when you get older, sometimes you let the light bulb go out and you forget how to find your way back. So to have that path illuminated for you all the time, I think is extremely valuable, because you can become cynical, you can become jaded, or you can just forget. You can allow yourself to forget that boy.
Exactly.
You have to, or the girl, you have to keep that light on.
Yeah, and also that's what makes our job fun, I think. That initial thing that you got into this because you thought that was fun, coming up with things or whatever it is. So you gotta remember why you got into it, because that's basically why you like it. If not, you just have a job, it's boring.
100% accurate. Well, thank you so much for talking. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Listeners, you can find Federico at federicodiaz.me. I've said this the third time. Now, if you didn't write it down, that's on you. I mean, I can't come to your house or your treadmill and load your website for you. Just do it. And also, you can email him if you're just want to ask him a question that I didn't get to. Federico at thecommunityus.com. That's Federico at thecommunityus.com. So you were there after it changed from La Comunidad, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, probably soon after I came in, we changed for the American market, I guess.
Well, thank you so much again, listeners. Also, reach me at Dan's podcast at mac.com. If you're so inclined, leave a review at the iTunes store. All the episodes with pictures of the guests are at balserville.com, and it's free of charge. Also, the podcast is free of charge on Spotify. It's included in your Spotify premium membership, so you don't have to pay extra for that. Fede, thank you again so much. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, listeners, we'll see you again soon. Bye.